Hi, and welcome to the Modern Persian Food Podcast. We are food bloggers,
Bita Arabian,
and Bita Nazem Kelly, and we're here to share with you the rich flavors and fresh ingredients of Persian cooking and how to incorporate them into today's modern lifestyles.
We're excited to introduce you to the flavors, tastes, and techniques we use, and also our own cultural stories and perspectives growing up in the U.S. in a Persian family. Thank you for joining us. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Modern Persian Food, episode number 69. Today, we're talking about a Persian stew, also known as khoresh or khoresht. You could have tea or no tea, is a Farsi word for Persian stews that are typically enjoyed with rice. And the one that's the star of today's show is celery stew. Bita and I wanted to share about this stew because it is a great one to start with if you want to try your hand at Persian cooking, or if you're in an area where it's difficult to find ingredients. It is both easy to make and the ingredients are simple and easy to find. So I'm joined by my lovely co-host this morning, Bita. Hi, Bita Joon.
Hi, Bita Joon. I'm so glad we're talking about Khoresh Karafs, celery herb stew. It's such a fun dish. So I'm excited to talk about that today. And you're right. I mean, the ingredients are super simple. It's something that's very accessible. And I do have to say that Khoresh Karafs was actually the first Persian khoresh that I ever made on my own by myself. And, you know, the ingredients are super easy. So yeah, we just felt that like we wanted to give our listeners the tools and the knowledge to be able to tackle making Persian food on their own. And celery stew is going to be a great khoresh to start with because of those reasons.
I grew up having it quite a bit, and just to be totally candid, I didn't love it as a kid because it was just on the regular weekly rotation. I just had it too much. Mm-hmm. My dad was a doctor and also like very strict with having healthy food in the house. And so I think that this was a healthy choice, and my mom would make it with chicken. He was big on white meat versus red meats in our family early on. Mm-hmm. And I think that growing up, I just didn't appreciate it. And I just got tired of it, to be honest. But then later, as an adult, I started to love it more and more. Mm-hmm. And I do think that she also made it a lot because growing up in the Midwest, we didn't have a whole lot of Persian markets or ways to get ingredients at that time.
Right.
And so it was also easy to be able to make that Persian dish given where we lived and our circumstances many years ago. But yeah, since then, as an adult, I have come to really love Khoresh Karafs. And I think my turnaround point or my Khoresh Karafs awakening was at a catered event. So the chef of this catering company based in San Jose, she makes it with artichoke hearts. And that just version added just a tanginess and a deliciousness that I had not experienced before. And I started to add artichoke hearts to my Khoresh Karafs. I love it. The other thing I appreciate about it is that it's easy to make it vegetarian or switch up the meats.
That is a great point, though, that it can be made with chicken. It could be made with beef or lamb. It could be made completely vegan. So that's a great thing about this khoresh. And actually a lot of the different khoresh in Persian food, you can actually swap out the protein to what works best for you and your family. If a recipe says a certain way, you can definitely modify that to see what works for you. But yeah, Khoresh Karafs, you need celery, of course, parsley, mint. Those are the basic ingredients, and onions. And so what I do is, as I start every Persian khoresh, is chopping up a big onion and sauteing that in a neutral oil and kind of like softening it and caramelizing a little bit, and then adding about a teaspoon of turmeric to it and to get the piaz dar, essentially the fried onions, which smells so intoxicating and is like such a cozy scent to me. Started off with that, and then I throw in the chopped herbs and the chopped celery, and I saute them all up together, and I kind of cover it a little bit just so that it has the opportunity to like steam a little bit. And really at that point you add the liquid. You can use broth, you can use water, and you just basically let it simmer. And if you're cooking meat, you kind of cook the meat alongside and then kind of combine both of them so that the celery and the herbs get a chance to kind of like soften on their own, and then you mix it with the meat.
It's really delicious with meat. It's very delicious with meat. Let's say I want to make it tonight.
Yeah.
In a traditional version with meat, what kind of meat would I look for in the market?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go with like a really basic, you could go get like cubed meat, like a cubed beef, or if you prefer lamb. But again, like chicken works great. You can use like boneless, skinless chicken thighs chopped up in there, or if you are more like chicken breast, you can use that. Like I said, you can just omit the meat altogether too if you wanted to have it all plant-based.
I like it with stewed beef.
Yeah.
Stewed beef or cured beef. That's the way I like it.
Yeah, and then you cook it and it becomes all super tender and it's super delicious and it adds like gelatinousness to the liquid part of the khoresh and it's super delicious. So you can actually serve it without these other ingredients that kind of amplify some of the flavors in there, but to add a little bit more of like a tartness to it and making like the sauce just a little bit more luscious, you can use tomato paste. And also some people like to amplify the tartness even more by adding limoo omani or dried omani lemons to it. If you don't have that, you can definitely add lemon juice to it to just up the sourness of the stew to like make it super luscious and things like that. But again, those are kind of like a little bit of variations based on regions or what you like.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically the simple form of the recipe.
Oh, thanks for sharing your recipe. It sounds really similar to how I make it and how my mom made it. My mom does use a little bit of tomato paste or tomato sauce. And yeah, according to where you're from or your family or region, sometimes it has it, sometimes it doesn't. We definitely like our khoreshes to be sour. I love sour flavors. My mom uses lemon juice, I think. I use limoo omani, but I think she probably uses lemon juice because that's what she was used to using in Michigan.
Yeah, those, dried lemons are kind of hard to get a hold of. These days it's a little bit easier. You can order them online or from your local Persian market. But I love the variation with adding the artichoke hearts. I'm a big fan of artichoke hearts. So this is like another opportunity where you can kind of add that in and really make the sauce, making the khoresh super robust. If you don't want to have a ton of rice, you don't have to. You can actually technically have this as a side dish.
I do. I sometimes just eat it without rice.
Yeah, I mean, it's super delicious. I love it. And I love the broth of it too. It's like tangy and sour. If you're interested in making Persian food and you really don't know where to start, this is like a great dish to start out with and kind of get your bearings, and you will see that it's not that hard. The celery is chopped up usually in about like 1-inch pieces. And a lot of these ingredients, the parsley and mint are the kind of the most exotic ones here.
Tell us about parsley and mint. Do you like to use fresh parsley or dried? I grow it in my herb garden. Personally, I use dried mint. It depends if I have fresh parsley or not, whether I use fresh or dried parsley.
Yeah.
But tell me about how you would make it in terms of herbs. They also sell herbs frozen.
Right. Yeah, they do. I try to just use a fresh parsley and mint, but I have used dried mint. I have not used dried parsley, but parsley is just one of those that's just really easy. And I usually have a bunch of herbs and stuff at home. A lot of time I'm like, oh, I have a bunch of parsley or I have some mint that I like got from my mom's house or something like that. And then I like to use fresh, but you can definitely use dried if you don't have the fresh.
I mean, it's much more flavorful if you can get your hands on fresh herbs. This is an herby stew, and it's one of many of our herby stews in Persian cuisine, but this one is one of the very traditional ones that most people have had. And the other herby stew, there's sort of a rival herby stew.
Yeah, there is. And now there's some people who have some strong feelings about this, but a lot of times people will compare Khoresh Karafs to Khoresh Ghorme Sabzi. And Ghorme Sabzi is another green herby stew that has actually a bunch more herbs in it. And it's usually cooked with some sort of red meat, some lamb or beef, and with a bunch of omani lemons and beans, usually typically kidney beans. Sometimes you could swap that out for black-eyed peas. And there's a ton of herbs in Ghorme Sabzi, and in Khoresh Karafs is traditionally just the two herbs. So there's like a strong rivalry. People will hate on Khoresh Karafs because they're comparing it to Ghorme Sabzi. It's like, but the way that I think about it is like, why can't we just have both khoresh? And can't we just all live in harmony with like multiple different flavors and different khoresh? So
they're really different to me.
Yeah, they are. So if you have a problem with Ghorme Sabzi, it's okay. You can have your Ghorme Sabzi, but I'm definitely going to also have Karafs to have too. So Ghorme Sabzi is a little bit more labor intensive, but there's some cheats and stuff for that as well. But as a more beginner dish, I definitely suggest that you try to make Khoresh Karafs.
Yeah. They're totally different. It's like apples and oranges.
Yeah.
And also depends who makes it.
Yeah.
To me, it's like I've had a really like horrible karafs, and I've had such delicious karafs. It depends who makes it. Same with Khoresh Sabzi. I could say I don't like Khoresh Sabzi, but then have you ever had a really good Khoresh Sabzi? I mean, how can you not love it?
Yeah.
It's just who makes it. And also the differentiation of the little spices and the touches.
And the herbs. And then like Khoresh Sabzi traditionally has like fenugreek in it, shambelile, which some people like are opposed to. It has this really strong flavor. So, you know, it really, again, depends on who makes it and how it's prepared.
So nutritious. So good for you.
Yeah, super nutritious. Celery is so good for you. And I love this flavor of celery.
We have a whole episode on Persian stews, episode number 8. If you would like to hear more about the delicious, interesting stews of Persian cuisine, just click on back and listen to episode 8.
Great idea. The Ask the Beats today comes from Sarah in Burlingame, California. She says, I'm allergic to tomato-based products. What's a substitute for tomato paste in Khoresh stews?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, that you're allergic to it.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But the good news is you don't actually have to have tomato paste in a lot of the Khoresh. Like, for example, this Khoresh Karafs that we were just talking about, yes, tomato paste is used in a lot of the different recipes for it. But if you omit it, there's some regions that don't put tomato paste in their Khoresh Karafs. The results will be a little bit more green. When you add the tomato paste, it adds kind of like a little bit of color to it. But when you don't add it, it's just more green. It's definitely green. And some people like the sourness of the tomato paste, and you can, again, add the lemon juice. You can also, like, a hack is to actually, if you have plum juice, you could add a little bit of like sour plum juice to it as well, like abe alu, and that will also kind of give some of that sourness that's associated to the tomato paste.
Interesting.
You may miss out a little bit on the lusciousness of the sauce, and if you want to have that same type of lusciousness, you can just make sure that you make a version that has like meat in it, that'll add more unctuousness to the broth. Also, when you're just sauteing, make sure to use plenty of oil and really get an opportunity for the vegetable and the celery to really caramelize.
I agree. I wouldn't suggest a substitute either. I think I would just leave it out with regards to tomato paste and even tomatoes themselves. Let's say you're going to make a salad Shirazi, which is our tomato, onion, cucumber, citrus salad. I just leave it out.
Yeah, absolutely. You are the chef in your own kitchen and you can make those changes. We give you permission to modify and make the recipe work for you and your family. And hopefully you will embrace Persian food and make it on the regular.
Thanks for your question. Be sure to hit subscribe. Let us know if you have any topic suggestions or questions for Ask the Beats.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Bita and Bita. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts and see you next time.